r/Askreddit by Reddit and chill. People who understand Chinese Japanese. What's the dumbest thing you've seen tattooed on someone? I remember in elementary school my buddy had this really cool hoodie with Asian lettering and dragons and shit. Anyway, one day our sub tells him the only thing written on it was chicken wing. He also told him there were multiple different languages on it, all used incorrectly. Saw a girl with tattooed on her shoulder who swore up and down it meant poison. It means fish. My theory is that poor spelling was involved. Because poison is one letter away from poisson, which is French for fish. So, maybe she typed poisson into Google Translate. It auto-detected French and gave her the word for fish. He thought it said love my grandson. It translated to something like I love fat boys. I think it was a Google Translate failure of epic proportions. I was on the subway in Nick and there was a guy who clearly lifted a lot. He was wearing a sleeveless shirt and on his jacked arms in Chinese were the words or beef noodle soup for everyone to see. Man looked ready to get the rest of his favorite restaurant's menu tattooed on his body. Beef noodle soup is ducking delicious. I have my Chinese zodiac in Chinese letters on my arm. I worked with a guy who was from China and spoke almost no English. When he saw it his eyes lit up. Pointed at my arm and said haha coke. I'm the year of the rooster. Also means prostitute. Or noob. I didn't see it. But I went with a friend to get a piercing. And I heard a guy say, I don't like the way that looks. Can you change this line and make the ends do this? The tattoo artist said. Yay. But that changes the word. You might be going from brave to gay woman for all I know. You can't change kanji symbols and still have it mean the same thing. I don't like my therapist tattoo. Can you put a space between the THE and the RAPIST? Thanks. Chinese speaker here. In high school I worked at a CVS. A white woman showed up at the register with a very poorly drawn tattoo. And I said cool tattoo. Means power. She scoffed and replied to me like I was Satan himself. And said you obviously don't understand Chinese letters. The tattoo artist told me it means the strength to overcome anything. Even breast cancer. Then she rolled her eyes at me and walked away. But it means the strength to overcome anything. Isn't that sorta what power is? Please don't use Google Translate to translate tattoos. I once am a katana. Yeah, really don't do this. Was getting my own tattoo in the UK while a girl in the shop was getting a tattoo in French on her hand. It translated as what do does but not really. Cause conjugation. Think she wanted whatever will be. Did not enlighten her. Just cringed silently as she had clearly used Google Translate. Tiny chicken, my friend got that thinking it said his name. That's just Chinese for dong. Kindergartens use that word head. Sort of opposite of this. In 1987 my sister visited the USSR and came home with a photo of an old lady wearing t-shirt that said duck you, I'm from Minnesota. Who says she's not an English speaking Minnesotan? My friend got a tattoo that said Veni Vidi Vici in Chinese. Well, so he thought. The tattoo accurately said 3 small dishes. Now he needs a tattoo underneath it that says no substitutions. A big muscly tough looking guy with accommodation written in big kanji down his bicep. Later I considered that maybe he was a property developer though. I was scrolling through the web at some tattoos for fun. A person said they got a tattoo that said strength and courage in Japanese. It actually said little animal. Big mistake. Great quote emo, but I don't think they thought so after they got it permanently marked on their skin. Little animal. Big mistake. That's hilarious. Not my story but a friend of mine. She had a classmate in college with a kanji tattoo. Confused she asked her what it meant. Hi princess. Turns out it actually said pig princess. Hi princess. Sty princess. It's an easy mistake to make. I have monkey on my wrist because that's my Chinese zodiac. I know it's accurate because a Chinese guy asked me if I knew what it meant. And I'm sure he thought I would say faith or love or something. So when I said monkey he looked so relieved. His friend was like you have got to stop doing that. Edit. Here's the tattoo if anyone is interested. That's actually pretty funny. I once saw this middle-aged dude wearing on his shoulder The rough literary translation is Goldfish Man, which in Cantonese means a sleazy older man who creeps on younger girls' children. Basically a pedo. Wonder under what circumstances he got that inked. Maybe he was circumventing a court-ordered community warning. I once had a roommate placed with me in the apartment our company ran for us here in Japan. He was loud, obnoxious, and I generally didn't get on well with him. But you try to get along. So we'd go to the izakaya up the street from time to time with other friends to drink and have a good time. The owners were this wonderful old Japanese couple who loved having all these weird gaijin come and entertain the locals. Anyway, somehow we get talking about tattoos and the roommate is showing his off. He then says that he got the kanji for friendship and peace tattooed on his back and lifts his shirt to show everyone. There's a bit of silence, broken by someone asking, "Who's Tomokazu?" What roommate didn't know, of course, was that those two kanji in that order was a man's name. He reacted well, though, taking a beat and then announcing, "I'm Tomokazu," which became a running joke while he was there. Kitchen confused the kanji. What he wanted I have no idea. Fat man he wanted big guy, tough guy? Apparently. Ariana Grande's hand tattoo mix-up was a huge deal in Japanese media for a while too. The tattoo, which appeared on her palm, was meant to spell out her new single 7 Rings. However, when she first shared a snap of the ink, her fans quickly pointed out it translated to mean a Japanese-style barbecue grill. On his fist. I haven't taken Chinese, but in Japanese it means desk. In Chinese it's the simplified version of I don't think it means anything on its own. Edit. I think I can see what the tattooee was going for. There's an urban myth that the Chinese have the same word for crisis and opportunity. It comes down to this character in traditional or in simplified, which appears in both of the words crisis and opportunity. As others have pointed out, it's also in a lot of words, usually related to mechanics of some kind, but also time, mood, movement, etc. The character's rough semantic meaning is something like hinge, but no Chinese or Japanese speaker would get much meaning from it on its own. So it could be that the tattooee asked for this word that meant both crisis and opportunity, and the poor tattooist obliged in the best way they could. I used to live in China and it was considered fashionable to have English lettering on your clothing regardless if you spoke English or not. I once saw an old woman literally in her 80s-90s with "drugs are my life" on her t-shirt. I guess at that age she's probably not wrong. But still. My favorite was in Japan. Magical. A gay color. Gets a tattoo in Google Translate Japanese thinking it says fear no one, but it really means I fear everyone. I actually need this tattoo though. My buddy has a literate foreigner in traditional Chinese characters. It's dope. My friend told me that he saw a tattoo parlor that had his word stupid gaijin in Japanese as one of the featured artworks. Irvine. Or maybe Redondo Beach, California. For reference. A guy came up to my mom and I and asked what character he had tattooed on his ankle. It was the word for fire in Chinese with an extra mark. When we told him there was a typo in the character, he said he knew it was fire but he added the extra line to make it look cooler. Was it? I had a student that transferred from Japan in high school who I was good friends with. A kid came in with a phrase in English that said "come to me if you wish to free your mind." Then supposedly the same phrase in Japanese. She noticed and whispered the phrase to me, which was "hot bananas a piece." There's a Japanese restaurant by my house that offers banana tempura as a dessert. And this is applicable. 40-plus-year-old bald white guy with Chinese characters that translated as "I'm a cute little princess" on the length of his forearm. Had a good laugh the rest of that day. As a 55-plus-year-old bald fat white guy, I almost need that. Almost. I met a girl who showed me her tattoo saying it said love. Sadly it said weird. Similar kanji. So well. Love, or weird. Unfortunate combination. It's like they fused the two kanji. I have a kind of reverse of this. I am an American who visited South Korea and saw a shirt there. This was in a part of the country where not a lot of English was spoken. We had some difficulty getting around. I was walking by a clothing store that seemed to sell nice, somewhat classy but not dressy clothes. Think stuff you can wear to a job where you interact with the public. Then, right there in the window, was a shirt that had written across the front, "Make a girl come for once." I have a shirt from a trip to Korea that says the sea is good. I couldn't argue with that, so I had to buy it. I met a guy in the airport when I came back from living in Tokyo for 2 years who had just visited Japan. He had 2 symbols on his shoulder I noticed that were off. I stopped him and asked him what his tattoo said. He said it means strong will bro. I didn't have the heart to tell him. His 2 symbols he picked in order were dog poop. If you find this online, I'm truly sorry bro. Haha. Yeah. High school classmate got a tattoo that said dog shit, and I asked her what it meant and she said tranquility, and I was like, nah fam, they usually run around and do zoomies right after. She was lost again. I saw somebody who probably doesn't understand Japanese flexing with his Japanese tattoo. It is translated to English. Surprise surprise. A giant failure. Hey man, pop body's perfect. A friend of mine had a tat shop. He put up a flash page with kanji for stuff like a-hole, bastard, etc. If anyone asked the meaning, he would honestly tell them. However, he would regularly get people come in, see the character, think it looked cool and get it inked on without ever bothering to ask. He thought that was hilarious. I'll never understand this. I get having a lot of tattoos and not really thinking much about the next one. But you're not even gonna spend 10 seconds on Google finding out what the word you're imprinting on your body forever means? Edit. See Google imp guys. Not Japanese or Chinese. But I once saw ass glove tattooed on someone's chest in German. They said it meant peace for all. Google Translate tells me ass glove in German is Arschhandskar. That seems quite different from Frieden für all. In high school a lot of people would ask me to write on them in Chinese in pen. I'd always write, which means I don't speak Chinese. I used to have a classmate who would wear a t-shirt with a sexually explicit Japanese phrase on it. To our Japanese class, our professor seemed kind of uncomfortable about it and asked him if he knew what his shirt said. He proudly said yes and continued to wear it to class on a regular basis. Sigh. Oh god. Reminds me of the time when a guy yelled filthy Frank's chin chin phrase to a bunch of Japanese people. Not someone I know. But my uncle told me a story about a guy that was a Crystal Palace fan who thought he was getting Eagles for life tattooed on him. But the translation in Chinese was more literal and translated to I give birth to eagles. My cousin worked in a restaurant with a Chinese guy who whenever he saw Chinese Japanese character tattoo would ask, why is your tattoo say soup? He'd do this regardless of what the tattoo actually said. While I was in Saudi for the first Gulf War, we had our name tags redone to include our name in Arabic. An enlisted Arabic soldier read the name tag of a friend of mine and started laughing uncontrollably. His supervisor ran over yelling at him, apparently wanting to know why he was laughing at the American soldier. The young man could only point at the name tag. The supervisor apologized profusely but explained to the major the Arabic portion of the name tag said, "He who sleeps with dogs." Don't know if it was the maker of the name tags or the guy, friend, we sent to have them made. The major walked over to the young enlisted guy, put his arm around his soldier and laughed with him. I think that went a long way toward their understanding of us. For me it was something someone claimed was Chinese writing but barely resembled any Chinese characters. It just looked like some squiggles. They thought it was love but it definitely wasn't. I've seen some funny ones online. But most recently I saw a dude with a tattoo that said household on his arm, basically talking about a family more in the sense of a unit rather than something with sentiment. I was at a Chinese takeaway in a western city's suburb with 2 friends who also understand Mandarin and said loudly in Mandarin, why does his arm's tattoo say household? And the dude didn't flinch. Which tells me he defo doesn't understand Chinese. Itself means family, but also can mean house. My guess is that he just looked up synonyms in a Chinese dictionary without really looking at the proper meaning because he thought 2 characters together looked better than one lone one. A friend of mine once told me he saw a guy with something like I don't speak this language tattooed on his arm. my mom sent me a pic of her co-worker's new Mandarin tattoo so I could translate it. It was supposed to say something about Jesus or religion but it said green lol. I knowingly got pork fried rice tattooed on my bicep. I get so much free pork fried rice at Chinese places now because the employees think it's so funny. You've got another arm and 2 legs. Get going with that free 4-course meal. Ducking, like and subscribe.